Yo, it's your boy Logos, and today I want to react to Thomas Sowell discuss the human atrocities that occurred within the Aztec Empire. I think this is important because nowadays we get this false notion that it was only the Europeans or another group of people that did horrible stuff to other groups of people, but that's just not true. Since the beginning of time, conflict, slavery, atrocities has occurred. I think it's much more better off to be grateful of the area, time period, and country that you live in instead of being upset about something that happened thousands or hundreds of years ago to people that you will never know, and you will never know the actual details, their experiences, such and so forth. People seem to just want to know history nowadays to have some stamp of approval to talk shit on other people, and I'm just not going to do that. Even the stuff that I like war, I don't overly glorify it. I understand that these are still people, they're fallible, and they have emotions. To try to pick one side to be the devil and other side is always the victim is ridiculous. Every group of people has been enslaved or slavers. Every group of people have been conquerors or conquered. Nobody is special. Nobody is unique. We're all the same. Let's get into it.
Society internally. The ruler's disposition of huge amounts of tribute pouring in from the subject peoples enhanced his power over his own people, to whom this tribute was distributed as largesse. Eventually, the ruler's role developed to such godlike dimensions that merely to look him directly in the eye was an offense punishable by death. The royal succession was not hereditary, but noble leaders chose each new ruler from among the royal princes, on the basis of perceived fitness for the role. These noble classes, including priests, were set apart from the masses by laws which restricted the wearing of cotton clothing and jewels, as well as the eating of particular sumptuous foods and the drinking of cocoa, to this class, with violations of these taboos also being punishable by death. At the bottom of the hierarchy were the slaves, typically used as domestic servants or as substitutes for pack animals. Slavery was not hereditary, but was sufficiently widespread that slave traders were among the most prosperous people in the Aztec Empire, and there was even a specialized occupation of bathing slaves so that they would be made suitable to be human sacrifices. Above all, the Aztec Empire was one in which military prowess was emphasized and glorified. For an Aztec warrior, one of the great prizes of war were the captured enemy warriors who were led back to the capital to be sacrificed by having their hearts cut out of their living bodies on a high altar, while Aztec civilians and foreign emissaries watched as streams of blood poured down the steps of the pyramid from this mass carnage. Rulers and dignitaries from the surrounding peoples, both subjects and independent peoples, were not merely invited but compelled to attend, a decline of the invitation being punishable by death. The number of people sacrificed on the altars of the various pyramids has been a matter of dispute among scholars, but the competing estimates are in the tens of thousands. The particular Aztec warrior who had captured an enemy was not only allowed the honor of cutting his heart out, but was also awarded an arm or thigh to take home and cook for a ceremonial meal for his family. The purpose of this was not to provide food, but to fulfill cultural and religious purposes, just as the purpose of the public sacrifice was to propitiate the gods and to inure the Aztec people in general to blood and carnage. For the conquered peoples, their ordeal began immediately after conquest. When the Aztecs conquered the Mixtecs, their ruler was killed and his family enslaved. Then their chiefs, who submitted to Aztec rule, had to attend a victory banquet, at which the Aztecs boasted of their feats and hurled humiliating insults at the vanquished. Thereafter, tribute in kind and in labor had to be paid to the Aztecs. This tribute sometimes included children to be sacrificed on the altars.
That's also not a unique thing to Aztecs because Romans, well, people throughout Europe and I think the whole world, they engaged in exchanging of hostages. If you lost a war, you had to pay them tribute. And if you didn't pay tribute, 9 times out of 10, you was like fully conquered or you were enslaved. So once again, we have this weird notion that when the Europeans came over to the Americas, that they just stopped the native people from just living in kumbaya and being happy and getting along together. But that's just not true. People, human beings in of itself are tribal by nature. And I think as time goes on, society gets more developed, we get more knowledge, we rely less on dogma and superstition. then we have more connections and we get to know each other better and we can grow out of these, I don't know, ignorant circles that we still have nowadays. But this whole idea that, I don't know, savagery or warfare or conquest or slavery was unique to any group of people is ridiculous.
Many conquered peoples were reduced to being serfs tied to land controlled by their Aztec overlords. An even worse fate could await conquered areas that later rebelled, which could lead to a wholesale slaughter of the population. Wanton brutality was not the whole story, however. The Aztecs, like such other conquerors as the Mongols, used terror as a weapon to demoralize their enemies and keep the subjugated peoples in line. Aztec leaders were often shrewdly scheming politicians, both in dealing with external peoples or with various rivals and allies within the empire.
Of course they are. You can't be competent, you can't have a growing empire, and you can't be able to rule through all these different people and have these hierarchies without competence and people being able to talk, communicate, and have some understanding within the environment that they live in. This is why I say learning history is so important, because if you learn about history, no matter who you are, where you come from, what region, what country, what time period, no matter how far you go back, you will see at a certain point where you were a slave and you was enslaving others. And there's no reason at all anybody on this planet should feel inferior to any other person because of their race, due to the fact that we all have the same history. That doesn't mean they all happen at the same time. But just because it didn't happen at the same time doesn't mean you're better or not better than somebody else. It's just about where you were born. And this whole idea that I'm supposed to feel bad or somebody else supposed to feel bad about the history, it's just history, man. As long as you're not trying to repeat it, as long as you're not making excuses for it, as long as you're not saying we should do it again or there's nothing bad about it, then it's just history. Study it, appreciate it, and for me, just be grateful you have to deal with it, because it could be a lot worse. I don't know, man. I feel like nowadays people just, they don't really care about using information for the sake of learning. They want to use it to push out some type of message, ideology, or belief, and it's really just sad. I don't stand by it because, once again, these people tend to manipulate things when the data or the statistics or the information doesn't align with what they want it to be. They can't just be like, oh, I was wrong, or oh, I just won't say that because it turns out it's not true. They'll just twist it or try to make it in such a way that it is true for them. And I don't agree with those people. I won't defend those people. And as far as I'm concerned, they're intellectually dishonest. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's your boy Logos, and I'll see you next time. Peace.